Earnnest within the command center. And we're going to go through the request process as an agent, the buyer making an actual payment of earnest money, and a little bit about Earnnest first. So let me just introduce Brody as well. You want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Super excited to introduce Earnnest. And my name is Brody, so I'll be walking through part of the demo as well. And then we'll do a Q&A at the end for you all. So super excited.
We're going to do the whole thing start to finish, and then at the end, please write down your questions if you have anything you want answered. We won't leave until we answer them all. But just to make sure that we keep on track, I could literally talk about Earnnest for 5 hours and we'd be here until tomorrow. So anyways, I'll tell you a little bit about our company and then a little bit about how we are facilitating the movement of the money. And then we can get into the actual process of how it works. So about Earnnest, actually, I will say this, because it is unique to this conversation. One of our founders is a KW agent, actually, and I find that kind of cool. So he and one of the tech developers were in a transaction, like a personal transaction, years and years ago. And one of them had to go drive 45 minutes to go get the earnest money check. And they kind of looked at each other and said, we can do this. We can make this better and more efficient. And we could probably do this as well as other digital payments too, but let's start with earnest money. How do we make it better? The process better, and for clients too. So that's where they started, and that's what we're going to go over today is the earnest money process, making it a digital one. And nobody is here to tell you that you have to do that a certain way or stop using paper checks altogether, but we are providing a digital solution. We mute your line, please. Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you. So that we can offer that solution to your clients, and it is more helpful for you too, as well as the person or people that are doing the reconciliation of those actual, right now they're paper checks that are coming in or cashier's checks. So it is a little bit more efficient of a process for everybody involved, the agent, the people in accounting or touching that check, and for your clients too. So how we're doing this differently than the other digital payment partners out there. The first thing is that we have really good support that's in-house and we have development that's in-house. So if you have a question or your clients have questions, you can direct them right to us, or we'll be providing you documents that help with that too. So an example would be like a security document explaining how we're doing this and then explaining the security around it. So that's all good for the support of this. Isn't like we just give it to you and then you can never find us again. Like we are here for you. The other thing is that we are moving the funds or facilitating the movement of the money in a really quick way. So 1 to 3 business days, more 1 to 2 is what I see. The funds will leave the buyer's account and end up in the brokerage account, the escrow account, and be totally cleared. So there's no more non-sufficient funds or, wire fraud, check fraud, that sort of thing. So we are using an ACH payment to facilitate the movement of the money. It's not a wire. Another thing that's really important, this is like maybe the most important thing, because it's an ACH payment, we are the only ones that are going to check to make sure that when the buyer presses the pay button, that there are sufficient funds in their account at that time. So that makes the way that we're facilitating the movement of the money one that meets the regulations of the escrow account and all the compliant things that we need to pay attention to. So we're protecting you and we're protecting your clients, and that's what we're offering. Another thing to kind of point out, because I think it's important, is we do have backing by NAR and the American Land Title Association, but also PAR. So I know that that's, an organization with people in it that you know and trust that's local to you. So I do want you guys to know that too. And I think that pretty much kind of gives a good background on our company and what we're doing. What I'd like to show first is how to navigate KW Command Center and then find Earnnest within it. And then we can go through the whole process start to finish.
Sounds good. All right, well, I'll go ahead and share my screen and I'll start by showing you all how to access KW Command in your marketplace and activate Earnnest. So I'm just going to first show you our website. It's just www.earnest2ns.com. I'm going to go over to our partners page and drop down to KW. So it gives all the information about our integration with Keller Williams Command. But we'll go ahead and show this quick video on how. And Amanda, if you want to make sure you can hear this video, let me know. So I'm going to go play this. This is how you can activate Earnnest within Command.
Earnnest's digital earnest money transfers are now available in the Keller Williams marketplace. From the Marketplace homepage, search for Earnnest and click on the app icon. Here, you can read about the benefits of Earnnest's free app. When you're ready to activate the app, click Activate. The app is free, so click Continue to purchase it for $0. Confirm your order by checking the box agreeing to terms, then click Place Order. To create your first Earnest Money request, click Go to My Apps. Open the Earnnest app. You will automatically be signed in using your KW details.
All right, so I'll go ahead and pause there. Super and easy to find in your marketplace just by searching Earnnest. And again, it automatically logs you in. So I'm going to jump over and walk you through that request myself. So I have the same screen pulled up here. I do have a few property cards already listed, but to begin your first request, you're going to hit this green plus. And again, I'm going to walk through the listing agent flow to where I can send it to the buyer's agent to complete and send off to the buyer. So I'm going to start with my property. And city.
I can see everything great, just by the way.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I have my property listed. I do want to point out this state here, Pennsylvania. It is very important when selecting your escrow holder. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next step and select the escrow holder. So that will be you all, KW Media. So you'll start searching here, and that's how you will search your organization's escrow holder. You can start typing. It is a geo filter or smart search filter that Earnnest uses. So as soon as I start typing, options will populate based on that property address, that state. This is a demo environment, so it's just going to pull this demo example here. But as soon as you start typing, it'll pull up options for you to select. So it should be very easy to select your organization. Again, it's just KW Media, and your organization name is at Delaware County Regional Realty. But I'll go ahead and use this demo title as our example. So I have my property address listed on my contract. I have my escrow holder selected. Next, it'll ask for the mobile number, phone number, and email of the person who is paying. So as the listing agent, I'm going to select no. I don't have their mobile phone and email. So this is where I can invite the buyer's agent to complete the request and send it to the buyer. So I'm going to go ahead and select no. If the buyer's agent is initiating this request, they will go through this route and select yes. But listing agent will select no. We'll go ahead and save our property. And it will take us to our next step in just inviting someone to request. So this is where we are going to enter the information for the buyer's agent. So I'm just going to use demo as our example name, buyer's agent. So we need their first and last name and their email. I'm just going to use another example here to send off the invitation. So I'll go ahead and click to invite the requester. This will then send the request off to the buyer's agent, this email that I've entered, for them to complete. So Amanda will be showing that step, but we'll go ahead and invite. You can see back in the property card here, the invitation is pending. It's been sent off. So I've inputted, you can see the escrow holder has already been selected. This is where that KW Media will show. It already has the property address and my creator right there and who is requesting that earnest money. So as a listing agent, my job is done. I've sent off that invitation. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to Amanda, who will walk you through the next steps.
Okay, so before I get into the next parts of this, I just want to kind of summarize what we just did. So when you know that it's time to request earnest money, I can't tell you when that is because it's different for every organization I talk to. But when you would typically see a buyer go pay with a cashier's check, we're just introducing this digital way to get the funds from the buyer to the escrow account. So
Amanda, Dominic, I interrupt you and I apologize. We need to invite the buyer's agent to get the buyer to send the money to us immediately upon execution of the agreement of sale. The buyer may have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, but we need to invite them immediately. I just want to let everybody know that. Thank you.
Okay. So to reiterate then what Dominic just told us. So listing agent is going to hold at the seller side brokerage account, the escrow account, the funds for the earnest money. So what Dominic is saying is that right away, when you know you've got a deal, you can send this request as a listing agent over to the buyer's agent. We'll fill out quickly a couple of pieces of information like their buyer's email address, and then shoot it over to the buyer and the buyer can pay. So it is, again, when we talk through it, it can be a little detailed, but I promise you it's as easy as like a race where you're the listing agent in the first position with a baton. You fill out just a couple of pieces of information, get it to the buyer's agent. Buyer's agent goes and communicates with their client with it. And the buyer's agent has to do literally almost nothing. We don't make them download things or do anything complicated. They're just getting an email. That's it. So it's very simple. So what you just saw was the listing agent part where they're making the request. And then the buyer's agent will get an email. When the buyer's agent goes into their email, they will see a quick, it's a 6-digit number code. It's called multi-factor authentication. You've probably heard of that before. What we're doing is making sure that the buyer's agent is in fact associated with the email address. Then all they do is fill out a couple of pieces of info and send it over to their buyer client. I'm going to show you the actual process of the buyer making the payment. And Michael, I think you have a quick question.
Yeah, I was on the call on Monday night and I remember there being some discussion about the $15 fee.
Yeah, I can show you that part too. Once it
Yeah,
pops up on my
but you don't
screen.
mention that when you invite them to participate?
It's mentioned to the buyer before they are going to make the actual payment. But I can show you that screen when we land on it. It's not a bad idea when you're communicating with the other people in your deal, like a buyer's agent, to maybe give them a heads up. But you don't have to necessarily. It is working the current process the way that it is without any pushback. So
I remember also on the Monday night discussion, people saying, well, they might not want to pay that. But prior to us now moving into using Earnnest that you folks are introducing to us, cashier's checks are more than $15, aren't they, Dominic?
Yes, Mike, I want to cut you off. I want to let the people from Earnnest continue the presentation. But clearly, a buyer is not required to use Earnnest, but it's the best deal in the world for them. They can still bring us a cashier's check or wire the funds if they want to. Thank you.
thank you. We'll do a Q&A at the end too. Please write all these down because we want to make sure we get them all answered for you. Okay, so I'm going to quickly share my screen. I'm going to pop into my inbox and I'm going to pretend I'm the buyer. So I'm going to see right in my inbox, it's going to say pay your earnest money. I'm going to take you through that whole process. Okay, so 1 second. I just need to get my screen share going. Okay, so Brody, verbal.
Yep, I can see it's yep, it's loaded now. You're good.
Okay, so I'm the buyer. I'm in my inbox. So a listing agent has started a request. It took them less than a minute to do their part. Now it got shot off to the buyer's agent. It took them less than a minute to do their part. Now I've got it sitting in my inbox as the buyer and I can pay. So this is very similar to, you know, like a Venmo type of payment. So I just click the green prompt, pay earnest money. And I can do this on my mobile phone too, as long as I got my email on there. I'm going to quick put in this is a fake email address, but we just need to do it this way because it's a demo. Just double check I've got it correct here. We're good. Okay, so now as a buyer, I need to go to my inbox and just grab the 6-digit code. It'll pop up in a second here. There it is. It's 891890. And you know, on my phone, if I'm doing this with any other payment, because I do lots of payments actually, but if I do this on my iPhone, it'll grab that number for me so I don't need to remember it. It's kind of a cool feature of the iPhone. So as the buyer, I'm filling out a couple of key pieces of information, my first name, last name. It already knows my email address, and I'm going to put in my phone number too. And then I'm in and I can start. So this is a 2-part. We're going to do a quick ID, buyer ID confirmation, and then we're going to select a bank account for the funds to come out of. The first thing I'm going to see is this the property that I'm buying? Yes, it is. And the escrow holder, if your brokerage is holding, it will say KW Media here. And my earnest money in this demo is $1,000. I say that looks great. If I am questioning anything here as a buyer, I'm directed back to my agent to ask. I cannot make changes here. That's by design. That's a good thing. And then I start. So Michael was asking the question there about the fee, and this is where we introduce the fee. I will say that all the time when buyers get to this step, they set this fee is not that high, and they mostly ignore this and they just continue through, to be honest. But I will point out, in case it comes up, and you guys should know this, that it is about half the price of a wire. That's the net wire is around $30. And feel like the fifth likely cheaper or even to that. But what we are going this is a digital way for them to make the payment. Can you guys still hear me? Brody, can you hear me?
Yes, you broke up.
You're breaking
You
up a
broke
bit.
You broke up for a second.
I think we understood everything, but maybe you stop sharing your videos. It's not choppy. I'm not, you've done that before where it helps.
Okay,
But
one
we
second.
understood everything about the $15 processing fee. And then you were going into confirm identity.
Okay, let me stop my video and just talk through to make sure it doesn't get choppy on us again. Okay, so I think you heard everything so far here,
Mhm.
but I will say at this point, we don't get a lot of pushback. Agents typically think that they will get questions at this point. And I would too. If I were an agent, I would want to know, like, how do I overcome an objection if I get one? But I think that if you look at the alternatives, they are more expensive and more time consuming, and certainly not as secure, especially when you look at like check and wire fraud opportunities. So again, we do provide a good document for talking through that. And if you ever feel like you want our help, you can always refer one of your clients to call our support line and we can walk through. We don't want to make our process a burden on you. We want it to make life easier for you. Okay, so now I used to work at a title company, and this part right here is going to ask the buyer for some pieces of information. Now, these pieces of information are no different than what will actually be required by whoever's going to settle your deal or close your deal. Just want to point that out. But we are going to ask for the last four of their social and their date of birth and their current, where they live currently, current address. And the reason why we do that is because we can check all of these data points against public record. And if none of them, or if all of them match and everything looks good, that's great. If a bunch of them don't jive and don't make sense, we might require them to put in a little bit more information, but it's very rare. So what you're looking at is what most buyers experience. Okay. So then I just quickly have done my ID confirmation part, and now I'm going to log into my bank account. We work with a partner called Plaid. Plaid is leading in security, but they're also one of the largest networks of banking institutions in the United States. So when the buyer goes to this part, instead of having to type in their actual like routing number and account number and sensitive information, we use this interface as a secure way for the buyer to just log into their bank account and then choose the bank. And I will let you know that there are a lot of institutions in here, even credit unions. 94% of the time, you will have the buyer find their institution here. If they don't, they can still do a more manual entry, but it will add just only one day onto the time frame. But I just want you to know what you've seen so far is the majority of what a buyer experience. So let's just pretend that I'm going into my bank account and I just happen to have a cool $1 million sitting there. That's great. That's more than sufficient funds. So it's going to let me go through. And then we're reaching the end here. Basically, all I do is the buyer say, yeah, everything I did and those details look good so far. And I just want to pay my earnest money, please. This all should take less than 5 minutes. That's the average, 3 to 5 minutes for a buyer to actually do their part. So that is it right there in a nutshell. I'm going to stop my share screen quick and come back. 1 second. Okay, did you guys see all of that okay? Did it come through okay?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so we did everything start to finish, and I imagine there are a lot of questions. So let's start taking some of the questions. Unless we're amazing and there are no questions.
I do have a question. What is the MCA notified? Because we were doing a Google, and do we still have to do the Googled deposit form?
I can take this one, Brody.
Yep.
Okay, so when a payment is made and it's made to the KW Media escrow account, certain individuals, I believe the MCA is one of them,
Right, Laura. Mhm.
are notified. And that's not something that you need to remember to put in anywhere. It just happens automatically. And then the MCA has access to a dashboard where she can look at all the payments and reconcile and do her job much easier because of the digital payments.
Stephanie, Laura is very excited. Laura and Lisa are very excited about Earnnest. And if everybody could have every deposit coming on Earnnest, they couldn't be happier.
If it were me, I would really much love that because I have done reconciliation before. And if you can imagine the number of paper checks that are floating around, the digital aspect of it helps the agent, I believe, the client, and I think the accounting as well.
Now, what about giving them a heads up to keep an eye out for that? Is that something we still have to do, Dominic?
Well, you always have to keep an eye out for all of your deposits when you're the listing agent. You have to know that they came in. You're going to be notified, just as Laura will be when the deposit comes in. But you have to keep on top of your transaction. It's not Laura's job to do that. If you're working with Sue Mercandante, she won't even do that. You have to make sure the deposit comes in. Remember, a buyer can still bring a cashier's check or wired funds or a regular check if it's 30 days out. That's what the agreement of sale says. We now put in our MLS. We put in the MLS for all of our listings, or we should be, that we request wired funds or cashier's checks. Now, I think we want to change that. You're going to be happy to hear this, Amanda and Brody. We're going to put in the MLS. We request that you use the Earnnest app for deposit money if possible. If not, bring us a cashier's check or wired funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I will let you guys know this. So I've had a lot of conversations, especially from our relationship with PAR. I've gotten the chance to talk to a lot of broker owners. And when we're going through the vetting process where like Dominic and Laura were deciding, are we a good payments partner? Are we the best payments partner? Do we protect you? Are we secure? Are we compliant? That sort of thing. All of those conversations, I will tell you, were really great ones. I've had over 50 of them, I know that. But I will say that the more experienced brokers were asking me, okay, as the listing agent, if we're holding the funds in the seller side brokerage account, what can I do to get them there quicker? Make it, I know it's not my job per se to like start a request, but we do allow you to do that. And I guess the benefit of that is that you're able to very quickly, after you've got an accepted offer, initiate instead of being on the more like reactive approach of getting the funds to your escrow account because they're the sellers. I mean, this is your deal, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of cool to, instead of have to wait for the buyer side to do their part, that you can jump start it and say, here, you can do it digitally. And here's how you do it. Here's the invite. And also, here's the account that it needs to go to, and you're kind of getting a jump start on it versus then just waiting for a check to come. I kind of like that. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to explain, but it is like more of a proactive approach at trying to get the funds in the escrow account where they belong. Quicker, too.
Much faster.
Okay, so any other questions? I didn't see anything pop up in the chat, so if anybody has anything, please let us know. We're here for you.
All right.
Okay, so this is what we're gonna do for sure. I don't know what has been sent out to you all yet, but we'll make sure that you have links for walkthroughs. I think this is being recorded, so you'll have access to this video too. You have access to us personally and through the support line, and so do your clients. And also, I think that security guide I mentioned is a really good tool because security plus the process, I think that'll help you out in your conversations and questions from your clients. Yeah.
I want to say that pretty soon you're going to be seeing other brokers asking your buyers to use Earnnest to make their deposit monies. That's starting to happen in the marketplace. I received a call from a broker up in the Pocono Mountains saying, I never heard of this thing called Earnnest. The listing agent is asking our buyers to use it. And it's a $50,000 deposit. He said, should we do it? I said, yeah, go for it. It'll save everybody a lot of trouble. The buyer doesn't have to go to their bank. The listing agent doesn't have to deliver the check. It's a wonderful program, and I hope we all use it as an industry in the coming months and in the coming years.
Thank you. Yes, I think you will notice, especially with that relationship with PAR, we do have a fair number of escrow account holders other than yours that are signed up. So I think you'll notice that. So we went over the listing agent flow is what we call it, where your brokerage is holding the funds. And if you're the buyer's agent on the deal, you will sometimes notice now that more and more people are using Earnnest and already work with us, and you'll be able to use the Earnnest digital way in that case too. So yeah, we're excited. Thank you. Thank you for having us. And thank you, Karen, for the kind words. Thank you.
I have a question. So, so I'm a listing agent and I have the app on my phone because I did already do that when they sent the information out to us. So I can go on that app and put the request into the buyer's agent immediately as soon as I have the, I guess, what the agreement of sale.
You can use KW command to begin, or you can use .loop. We're integrated in .loop, or you can use our free app. But it really depends on what your brokerage directive is on should you start in KW command and manage your transaction within there. If the answer is yes, I mean, Dominic, you can chime in if you have a directive.
I think Laura's going to chime in if I know I see you on the screen. I don't know if she's listening, but I think Laura's going to ask you to use command.
I think so, but let's see.
How about Matt? Matt's on the call too. Matt, you're going to tell them to use command, right, Matt?
Yeah, once I figure that out, but yeah, that would be the good route to use.
Well, knowing your learning curve, Matt, it'll be, like in about an hour from now.
It'll be quick, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so
Matt's in charge of technology for the office.
Oh, hi, Matt.
And he trains on command every day, 10 times a day.
Command guru.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. We like tech guys. Nice to meet you, Matt.
Nice to meet you.
So yeah, I guess in short, what we've done is we've made it so that we are integrated in many different systems and we have our own free app. But since we are in KW Command Center, if that is what your broker wants you to do, and that's an easier process, you can start it right within the Command Center, which is what we demoed.
So I'm going to just get back to a point I made earlier. If you want the buyers to use Earnnest, you need to send out that invitation immediately upon execution of the agreement of sale, just as Karen was pointing out a second ago, so that you can get them to get you the money in the next day or surely in the next 5 days, depends on what your agreement of sale says. Most of them say the deposit has to be within 5 days. Now, if they don't do that, they're still under the obligation to get us to deposit with a cashier's check or a wires. So they can still do that if they want to. They're going to have to run around to their bank. They're going to have to pay money. They're going to have to do all sorts of crazy things when they can simply use Earnnest. Once everybody figures out how easy and wonderful Earnnest is, I don't think you're going to have any resistance, and you're not going to have any pushback on the $15 that the buyers need to pay, because they have to pay to get the money out, wire the funds to buy a cashier's check or whatever it is. So it's a great product, and it's the future of deposit money in Pennsylvania.
I think that's right. I think that's a right statement. And I think that having done it myself a couple times, I'm sure you all have too, when you purchase a product, you set up a wire. It isn't something you do very often. I think I've done 5 of them in my lifetime. And it's not as easy as just going in to do what we demoed and making a payment. Like if you're the buyer making a Venmo type payment versus setting up a wire, way more familiar, way more convenient. I think it pretty much speaks for itself. I think you will find that your clients like it and tell you like, oh my gosh, that was so easy. Thank you. So I think that will happen.
let me answer a question that was asked on Monday evening. This is only for deposit monies. It's not for bringing money to settlement. It's not for the title companies. It's only for deposit monies into our escrow account. Thank you.
Right. So maybe in months from now, we're already working on it and piloting it in other markets. We might be able to talk about moving funds from like your brokerage account to a settlement account for a title company or a settlement company. But today we demoed just earnest money when the buyer pays and it's going to a brokerage escrow account. How do we make it digital? So that's what we're doing today. And when those other things come and they're available, I'll let you know right away.
Yeah, and the other thing, Amanda, I'm sorry I'm in the weeds, but since many of our transactions, most of them work with a two-step deposit process where, you know, within 5 days, you might bring $1,000 and then 10 or 15 days later, you might bring, you know, $10,000 or $20,000. We need to remember that we need to send out that invitation again for the second deposit. We just can't assume that since we sent it out for the first, that they're going to know. In fact, they're not going to know. They need to get that invitation again. So it requires us to do something. And a lot of us like to just think that everything's going to happen automatically, but we have to send out that invitation email to the buyer's agent to get them to send it to the buyer for each deposit, every time we want to deposit.
Yes, you did point out the other night too that yes, they are typically in two different independent payments and they happen at different times. I think you said something like it might be a good way to encourage getting all of it is like in one upfront. I don't know if that's realistic, but
absolutely, they save $15 and they get all the deposit in at once. And if you're representing sellers, I think in this highly competitive market, getting one big deposit immediately is better than waiting. But you know, that's transactional. It depends upon what's in your transaction.
Sure. But yeah, thank you for pointing that out because you can use us for the first earnest money occasion. And then that second one, even though it might not still be considered earnest money, I'm not sure what you're calling it.
It is.
But you can
No, it is,
that.
Amanda. It's still earnest money.
Okay,
It's,
good.
It's still earnest money. Yes.
Yep. So good to go on both, but they will be two independent occurrences unless you can get them all in the first one. Okay. Awesome.
Perfect.
All right. Okay, well, we'll let you guys get back to your day. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Even if it's like, I want to try my first one with you guys, walk me through it, call us, okay?
Right. And we'll make sure to get both recordings from both trainings over and make sure, Laura, I can make sure that you have all the supporting documents as well and resources for further training.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Amber.
I have to say, maybe it was because I was on Monday night as well, but I really got it today. So you guys did a great job.
Thank you.
Awesome.
We rearranged
you,
a
Barb.
little bit to make it more, let's go start to finish.
Yeah, it's very much more streamlined.
Good. Okay, good to hear. That's what we were shooting for. Thank you.
Perfect.
All right, we'll talk to
Thank
you
you.
later. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
You guys have a great rest of the day.
God bless everyone.